Hi there, I'm Trish from trishnewbery.com, and following on from our beginner sewing videos, we're going to sew a really simple beginner's project. It might not seem simple to you at the moment, but this is an introduction to sewing in zips. So we're going to sew a very simple cushion, a pillow, a throw cushion, and we're going to put a dress zip into it. So this is what a dress zip looks like. It has a puller in the middle and it has an even amount on both sides of it. So there's two types of zips you can get. You can get an invisible zip or a dress zip. Sometimes people call these a lap zipper. So that's what we're going to install today with our sewing machine. So what you're going to need to sew this is 2 pieces of fabric cut at 42 centimeters squared, and I'll put that measurement conversion into imperial in the measurements below. You're going to need a 30 centimeter dress zip. You're also going to need a zipper foot that looks like this that will come with your sewing machine. So when you're ready, let's get started. So here is the fabric I'm working with today. It's a craft cotton. So cotton means it's a woven fabric and it's fairly sturdy. And if this is your first time at putting in a zipper, you'll find this sort of fabric really easy to work with. So I've cut out 2 at 42 centimeter squares. Now that's to go with a 40 centimeter insert cushion. So we've cut out 2, and if you have a look at this fabric, what you will find is it has direction. Direction, if it was textured, it would be called nap. So what that means is there is a very definite top and bottom to the fabric, and we can see that, for example, here with the cactus, he has a head and the head needs to face up, needs to be at the upper side. So when we're sewing in the zip, we want to make sure that we have the zip at the lower edge. So the first thing to do, some fabric might not have direction, nap, in which case you don't have to worry about it. A lot of fabrics are designed to be used in multiple ways, but this fabric has nap. So the first thing I have to make sure is that I know what is the top and I know what is the bottom. So when you know which is the top and which is the bottom, place your 2 pieces that are cut out right sides together and make sure the top is at the top and the bottom is at the bottom, and then just match that bottom edge. Now we're going to take a tape measure and measure along to 6 centimeters, and I'll put the conversions down below, and put a small snip in the fabric. Now the snip should only be 5 mil, 1/4 of an inch deep, and do that for both pieces, and do that for one end, and do the same thing on the other end, and you can see the snips I've created here. So now we know which is our bottom edge, we're going to edge tidy that. So you can use a zigzag stitch, or if you have an overlocker, you can overlock or serge that edge. When you're doing that, make sure you only use the serger to tidy the edge off and any of the stray threads. Don't cut any of the fabric off. So to zigzag this, I'm going to come to my machine and I'm going to choose stitch 7, because that's what it is in my machine, and your machine will be different. So when you have that in place, lift up your presser foot, and at the moment we're just working with a standard presser foot, and we're going to zigzag tidy that edge, and we're going to do it on both pieces at the bottom edge that we've cut that small nick out of, which is called a notch. So we want the inside edge of the zigzag to be at the very edge of our fabric, and then the other side of the zigzag will help create that lock. So the goal of this is to secure the edge, and we also still want to be able to see our small notch through that edge stitching, through that zigzag. So when you've done that one side, go ahead and repeat it on the other side. And of course, if you wanted this to be really tidy, you could zigzag around all 4 edges. So now we've got the edge that we're going to install the zip in secured, and that will be nice and tidy and it will just stop it from fraying. Put the 2 edges you've just bound together, and we're going to sew a straight line in a moment. So put your machine back to your regular straight stitch. So for me this is stitch 1, and we're going to sew a seam from the raw edge, and we're going to stop directly opposite that nick that we put in our fabric called a notch, and we need to sew this at 1 centimetre. You can go over if you need to, it's really not going to make a huge amount of difference to our final result of our cushion cover, but ideally what we want to do is sew this at 1 centimetre. So this is 6 centimetres long, so we want to stop directly opposite the bottom notch, so this notch here, and try and make it as smooth and as straight a line as you can, and don't forget to go back tack at the beginning and end. So what that means is we want to sew forward 3 stitches, we want to stop, and we want to go backwards 3 stitches, and then we want to sew forwards to our stopping position. We want to stop opposite that notch, go backwards 3 stitches, forwards 3 stitches, and then cut off and lift our presser foot up. So this is what we're looking for, and do that at the other end as well. You might find it easier to turn your work over and repeat what we've just done. And remembering when we're starting, you might find it easier to hold those threads away from the needle, and the other important thing to remember is don't start sewing off your fabric, start sewing just in from the edge of your fabric. You'll find it's so much easier. So go forward 3, and then back 3, and then forward, and stop directly opposite that notch, backwards, and then forwards again, and cut off. So what we've done is we've created an opening for our zip to go in. The next step is to plug in your iron. We need to press this into place. So what we're going to do is press this open. So go to your iron and press the seam like this, and then continue pressing all along the same width through to the other side. So we want it to end up looking like that. So here you can see I have ironed this open, and it is in a nice even amount all the way along. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is to find our zipper foot and install our zipper foot. So we want a one-sided zipper foot like this. So your machine may differ from mine, but the basic premise is there should be a little button somewhere around the back of your foot here. If you push it, it should drop the existing foot out, like so. So when you take that, make sure you put it somewhere safe. I'll just put mine in here. And then we need to install our zipper foot. So the zipper foot, most brands have a little bar along here, and that little bar slots into a little ridge that's cut out here, and you can place it on one side or the other side depending on which side of the zipper you're sewing in. So that brings us back to the zipper. It's called a lapped zipper, a dress zip, also known as a lapped zipper, for a reason. One side of this is sewn really close to the teeth here, and the other side has a lap over the top of it. So the zipper, when it's a dress zip, does not sit directly in the middle of our opening. It will sit to one side or another of it. So what that means in practice is, if you have a definite right side and wrong side to your cushion, so say if you have a feature fabric on the front but you're sewing a plain fabric on the back, you want to make sure that the tight side of your zipper is the back and the lapped side is the front. Right, so what we're going to do is put your fabric right side up, and this would be the good side of your fabric to your left, and this would be the back of your fabric to the right. So the reality is, with the zip, you can have this cushion in both directions. This is just in case you are having a feature fabric. Take your zipper and open it up, and we're going to put this side of the zipper on the back side, so that needs to be really tight in to the edge when we've sewn it. So what that means in practice is, we want this left side of the zipper to be sitting like that. So we want to insert the zipper foot so that the left side is attached like so. So just hold it under there and drop it down until it snaps into place. So make sure your zipper foot is now in the up position. For the next part you might need some pins, so take the side of the zipper foot and tuck it underneath. We want the metal stopper to be just in from the edge like so, and I'll just put a pin in. So that's what it's going to be, and this end of the zipper foot, when we tuck it under, should be sitting with the metal piece just in like this from the edge. So you might want to put a pin in it there as well. You could pin all the way along if you wanted to, if you find it easier, and certainly when you're beginning you'll find it a lot easier. So if you were pinning it, just make sure that this folded edge is really close to the zipper teeth, but not so close as it's going to stop that zipper from being zipped open and shut. Okay, and just rearrange those until you're happy that they're in the correct position. Okay, so this is what we're looking for here. So come to opposite the metal zipper foot and then put your zipper foot down. I'll just rotate the needle down. When we sew this, we want the needle to start directly opposite our stitching here, but we don't want it to interfere with the metal stopper. If you hit that stopper with your needle, you will break the needle, and that's really annoying, so we don't want to do that. So just make sure it's a small distance away, and ideally what we want to do is just keep arranging this, because it's so that it is all going to be sewn nice and evenly all down the whole length of the zipper. So I've just slightly rotated my needle down, so I've turned the wheel towards me, just so I know the exact starting position, and I'm going to sew 3 stitches forward, and I'm going to stop and I'm going to go 3 back, stop. And now I'm going to sew all the way down to the other end. And I'm going to try and keep my distance the same the whole way down. If you find it easier, you could roll this up and tuck it under here, just to give yourself a little bit more room to work with. So I'm stopping and removing the pins as I sew. So you're going to get to a point with your sewing when the zipper pull gets in the way. So what you do is you stop with the needle down in your work, and then make sure the needle is in your work but just slightly up, and then just pull the zipper pull past and keep sewing. Now we're going to stop directly where our stitching joins here. The correct way to sew a zipper is to leave the needle down in your work and pivot, but what you can do if you find that challenging is just to back tack and stop. But we'll continue on as if you were sewing a correct lap zipper. So stop with the needle down in your work, lift your presser foot up, turn your work, rearrange your work so that the folded edges of the fabric are together, drop your presser foot again, and we want to stitch across, but this time we want to stitch across to maybe, you can feel, it'll be wherever it feels right for you. It's around about 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch. We just want to stitch directly across to the other side, but so we're still on our tape, and when we've gone that distance, we're going to stop with the needle down in our work. We're going to lift our presser foot. We're going to turn it again and put our presser foot down. So the distance is really going to depend, I've said 1 centimetre, 3/8 of an inch. It's really going to depend on where you sewed that initial line of stitching. You have this amount of tape to work with, and as long as you sew parallel to this line and it's on the tape, you'll be fine. So rearrange your work so that those folded edges are together. You can certainly pin them if you find it easier. Whatever you want to do. If you want to pin it, you feel more comfortable pinning it, pin it. So now we are going to sew a straight line back to our starting position, or opposite our starting position. So continue sewing as far as you can in a straight line. Now you'll probably have pins in this. I don't tend to work with pins. You want to go as far as you can. So as you can see here, our zipper pull's starting to get in the way. Stop with the needle down in your work. Lift it so it's almost out, and then move that zipper pull. So the reason I've left that till it's almost at the other end is because it's much easier to get a straight line. So just continue stitching and stop directly opposite your starting point. So stop with your needle down, lift your presser foot up, turn, and we want to stitch back to our start point. Stop with your needle down, back tack 3, and then forward 3, and cut off. So here is our lapped zipper all sewn beautifully. For the next step, make sure your zip is open. Don't go any further until your zip is open. Turn your fabric so it is right sides together, and we're going to sew the remaining 3 edges. So what this means is we need to switch out this presser foot for our plain presser foot. So take your existing foot, drop the zipper foot out, a one-sided zipper foot out, and put your regular stitching foot back in, and put that zipper foot somewhere safe. It'll be one of the most used feet you have. Right, so making sure that zip is open, we're going to start sewing from our very original start point here. So match those raw edges, and we're going to sew a seam around the remaining 3 sides at 1 centimetre. So sew forwards 3, back 3, and then forwards. Now, because we're sewing a 1 centimetre seam allowance, what we need to do is stop with the needle down in our work 1 centimetre before the end of our seam. Then lift your presser foot, turn, put your presser foot down, and do the same to the other corner. Stop 1 centimetre before the end with your needle down, lift your presser foot up, turn, presser foot down, and stitch back to our other end. Don't forget to back tack. And cut your threads off. Well, our cushion slip cover is nearly complete. What remains to do is to turn this through. So the best way to get nice sharp corners is to put your hand inside, put one finger right to the end, turn one edge over at the stitch line, turn the other edge down at the stitch line, and just push it through with your finger. I'll show you that again. We want to turn one side down, it doesn't matter which is first, the other side over, put one finger in, and then just push that through. And what that does is it gives you a really sharp corner without the need to use anything to push that out. So at this edge here where the zip is, we'll do the same. One down, one over, and push through. And this edge here, one down, one over, and then push through. So all that remains now is to insert your cushion inner, and you are finished. You could of course give that an iron if you want, but it's probably a good idea not to, because what will happen is you want that cushion to push out that side to make it all nice and puffy. So there's really no need to, unless your fabric has got really creased. So thanks for joining me today. Hopefully you've picked up on a few new techniques from this, and I hope to see you again soon.